There is a silent force shaping your life It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't ask for permission. It works quietly in the background, turning your inner world into your outer reality. That force is thought. What you think about most does not stay in your mind. It sinks into your habits. It hardens into your character, and eventually it stands in front of you as your life. Most people believe their circumstances control their thinking, but history proves the opposite. Thinking is the cause. Circumstance is the effect. Every great achievement began as a single dominant thought, held long enough, believed deeply enough, and acted on consistently enough to reshape reality. Edison did not invent light by accident. Carnegie did not build an empire by chance. Lincoln did not rise from obscurity by luck. Each of them carried a mental image so vivid, so persistent, that failure became only a temporary delay, never a final outcome. Your mind is a factory. Thoughts are the raw materials, and your life is the finished product. You cannot think poverty and live in abundance. You cannot think weakness and act with power. You cannot dwell on fear and walk confidently toward greatness. The mind does not negotiate with contradiction. It produces what it is fed. This is why most people remain trapped, not because they lack ability, but because they repeat the same thoughts day after day. Doubt becomes familiar. Excuses become comfortable. Limitation becomes normal. And slowly, almost invisibly, they accept a version of life far smaller than their potential. But the moment you become conscious of your thinking, everything changes. Napoleon Hill called this the law of the dominant thought. The idea that whatever occupies your mind most often, whatever you dwell on emotionally, must eventually take physical form. This is not mysticism. It is discipline. It is cause and effect. It is the unseen mechanics behind success and failure. Look closely at your current reality. It is a mirror, not of your wishes, but of your habitual thoughts. If your days feel heavy, your thoughts have been heavy. If progress feels slow, your mind has been anchored in hesitation. If success feels distant, your thinking has not yet learned how to reach. But here is the empowering truth. The same mind that built your current reality can rebuild it. Thought by thought. Choice by choice. Day by day. The world is not moved by hope. It is moved by conviction. Conviction begins in the mind as a decision. A decision to think differently than before. A decision to replace reaction with intention. A decision to stop letting the outside world dictate the inside one. Henry Ford was told he was unrealistic. He was told the idea was impossible. But he did not allow other people's thoughts to become his own. He guarded his mental space like a fortress. And because he did, the world eventually adjusted to his vision. This is the difference between those who lead and those who follow. Leaders think deliberately. Followers think habitually. A disciplined mind does not wander aimlessly. It chooses. It selects. It repeats what strengthens and rejects what weakens. Because repetition is power. Whatever you repeat emotionally becomes belief. Whatever becomes belief begins to command behavior. And behavior, repeated long enough, becomes destiny. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your dominant thoughts. That is why desire alone is not enough. Desire without control becomes frustration. Vision without mental discipline becomes fantasy. The mind must be trained to hold an image long enough for reality to reorganize around it. This is where most people break, not because the goal is too big, but because their thinking is inconsistent. One day they believe, the next day they doubt. One moment they visualize victory, the next they rehearse failure. The mind cannot serve two masters. Decide what you will think about most, not occasionally, not when it feels easy, but especially when it feels difficult, because adversity reveals the truth about your mental conditioning. Pressure exposes what lives beneath the surface. When challenges appear, the undisciplined mind collapses into fear. The disciplined mind tightens its focus. Edison faced thousands of failed experiments, yet his dominant thought never changed. He did not think, "This is not for me." He thought, "I am getting closer." Same circumstances, different thinking, different outcome. Your future is not waiting for luck. It is waiting for alignment. Alignment between thought and purpose, between belief and action, between the image you hold in your mind and the discipline you practice daily. This is where transformation begins, not with a dramatic moment, but with a quiet shift, a refusal to entertain thoughts that weaken you, a commitment to feed the mind with images of strength, progress, and inevitability. You become what you think about most, whether you choose those thoughts consciously or not. And from this moment, voice is yours. There comes a moment in every life when quitting feels logical, when giving up feels reasonable, when the world convinces you that enough is enough. But history doesn't remember the ones who chose comfort. It remembers the ones who stood firm when everything said stop. Because success doesn't belong to the lucky. It belongs to the mind that refuses to quit. The mind that keeps moving forward when progress is silent, when effort is unseen, when faith is the only thing left standing. You see, a mind that refuses to quit becomes unstoppable, not because of talent, not because of luck, not even because of intelligence, but because of belief. Belief is the fuel behind every impossible victory. Belief is what turned Andrew Carnegie from a poor immigrant boy into the richest man of his age. Belief is what carried Henry Ford when the world mocked his idea of a horseless carriage. Belief is what kept Walt Disney alive when he was fired, rejected, bankrupt, and told he lacked imagination. A strong mind doesn't wait for proof. It creates proof. It doesn't wait for permission. It gives itself permission. It doesn't wait for the perfect moment. It rises and makes the moment perfect. And every time life knocks you down, and it will, you have two choices. Stay where you fell or stand back up with more determination than before. Resilience isn't born from comfort. It is forged in the fires of adversity. The harder the struggle, the stronger the mind becomes. This is why Napoleon Hill wrote repeatedly, "Every adversity carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit." He didn't say some adversities. He didn't say a few. He said every, because there is no wasted suffering in the life of a determined mind. But here's a truth most people avoid. To become unstoppable, you must first be willing to be uncomfortable. Growth demands discomfort. Discipline demands sacrifice. Change demands courage. The person who refuses to quit learns to embrace this discomfort like a warrior stepping into battle, knowing that the pain is temporary, but the glory is permanent. You start to realize that fear is not your enemy. Doubt is not your enemy. Failure is not your enemy. Your only real enemy is hesitation. The moment you start believing the voice that says, "Maybe this isn't for you." That voice has killed more dreams than failure ever could. But a powerful mind silences that voice, not through arrogance, but through action. Action in the midst of uncertainty. Action in the midst of worry. Action even when motivation disappears. Motivation gets you started, but consistency builds empires. A mind that refuses to quit understands that you don't need to feel ready to begin. You don't need confidence to take your first step. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need a vision and the courage to pursue it relentlessly. Every day you show up, even when you don't want to, you strengthen your mental armor. Every decision you make that aligns with your future rather than your fears, you sharpen your inner weapon. Every time you rise after falling, you become someone new, someone stronger, wiser, more focused, more unbreakable. And slowly, the world begins to respond to this energy. Opportunities start showing up. People begin to notice your discipline. Doors open that were once locked. This doesn't happen by magic. It happens by alignment. When your mind is locked onto a purpose, the universe aligns itself with your determination. And the day comes when you look back at your journey and realize something profound. You were never fighting the world. You were only fighting the weaknesses inside yourself. The moment you mastered your mind, the world bowed to your direction. A mind that refuses to quit eventually discovers a sacred truth. Discipline is freedom. While the world sees discipline as restriction, the relentless mind understands it as liberation. Discipline frees you from excuses. Discipline frees you from emotional chaos. Discipline frees you from the regret of wasted potential. You wake up before the world does. When you work while others rest. When you persist while others complain. You are not punishing yourself. You are shaping your destiny. Napoleon Hill taught that desire backed by disciplined action becomes an unstoppable force. Desire alone is weak. Desire without structure is fantasy. But desire fused with daily discipline becomes power. This is how ordinary people transform into legends. Not overnight, not through luck, but through repeated decisions to honor their vision even when no one is watching. A mind that refuses to quit begins to see life differently. It no longer interprets obstacles as signs to surrender, but as signals to rise. This mind understands something most people never learn, that every challenge contains a hidden invitation, an invitation to expand beyond who you were yesterday. And while the world may try to convince you that the battle is too hard, the dream too distant, the path too lonely, a determined mind simply whispers, "Try me," because when you reach that point where giving up feels easier, faster, and more convenient, something powerful happens. You stand at a crossroads. One path leads backward into the familiar darkness of regret, and the other leads forward into the blinding light of purpose. Most people turn back, but the people who rise, the 1% who build empires, who inspire generations, who shape the world, choose the path forward, even when they can't see more than one step ahead. The mind that refuses to quit learns to master its inner dialogue. It understands that thoughts are seeds, and whatever you plant repeatedly will eventually grow. Fear-fed thoughts produce hesitation. Doubt-fed thoughts produce delay. But courage-fed thoughts produce momentum. Every morning, the relentless mind chooses its thoughts deliberately. It does not allow negativity to move in unchallenged. It does not entertain weakness. It replaces limiting beliefs with commanding affirmations. I am capable. I am disciplined. I am becoming unstoppable. This is not arrogance. This is mental conditioning. Just as the body must be trained through resistance, the mind must be trained through adversity. Every obstacle is mental weight. Every delay is resistance. Every failure is an invitation to grow stronger. The person who refuses to quit understands that comfort is the enemy of greatness. Growth demands pressure. Diamonds are formed under extreme conditions, not ease. Look at Abraham Lincoln. Defeated in business, broken in personal loss, rejected repeatedly in politics. Yet he stood firm while a nation trembled. He did not quit because his purpose was greater than his pain. Purpose is what carries you when motivation fades. Purpose is the anchor when storms arrive. Purpose transforms suffering into service and struggle into strength. A mind that refuses to quit is anchored in purpose. It knows why it wakes up early. It knows why it sacrifices comfort. It knows why it keeps going when no applause is heard. Purpose turns endurance into devotion. Without purpose, persistence feels heavy. With purpose, persistence feels inevitable. The relentless mind also understands patience, not passive waiting, but active endurance. Rome was not built in a day. Empires are not formed in moments of excitement, but in years of unseen effort. Carnegie did not rise in a season. Ford did not succeed on his first attempt. Disney did not build magic overnight. They trusted time because they respected the process. Time rewards consistency. Time reveals character. Time magnifies effort. Those who quit too soon never give time a chance to work in their favor. But the mind that refuses to quit stays planted long enough to harvest results. It understands that the world tests commitment before granting rewards. If you can endure silence, resistance, and delay, success eventually has no choice but to respond. And something remarkable happens as you persist. Your confidence stops depending on outcomes. You no longer need external validation. You no longer fear failure. You develop a quiet certainty, a deep knowing that regardless of what happens today, you will win eventually. This is the mindset of champions. This is the inner calm of those who have conquered themselves. Because the greatest victory is not external achievement, it is self-mastery. When you master your mind, you master your habits. When you master your habits, you master your actions. When you master your actions, you master your future. Everything begins within. The outer world is merely a reflection of inner discipline. And when life tests you again, and it will, you won't panic. You won't collapse. You won't retreat. You will breathe, adjust, and advance. Because you are no longer guided by emotion, but by intention. You are no longer driven by fear, but by faith in your ability to endure. A mind that refuses to quit does not ask, "What if I fail?" It asks, "What if I succeed beyond anything I've imagined?" And that question changes everything.
Most people are not defeated by failure. They are defeated by the fear of trying again. Fear whispers lies. It tells you you are not ready, you are too late, others are better than you. But listen carefully. Fear has no power of its own. It only survives when you hesitate. Napoleon Hill once revealed a powerful secret. The moment you make a clear decision, the universe begins to rearrange itself in your favor. Yet most people live their entire lives undecided. They want success, but they also want comfort. They want greatness, but they fear criticism. And that inner conflict keeps them stuck. Let me ask you something. How many dreams have you delayed because you were waiting for the right time? The right time never comes. It is created by bold action. Every successful person you admire was once uncertain, once afraid, once doubted. The difference? They moved forward anyway. They failed, learned, adjusted, and persisted. Persistence is not loud. It's quiet. It shows up every day when motivation disappears. And this is where most people quit. One step before the breakthrough. If you are tired, rest. But do not quit. Because the moment you decide to persist is the moment your life starts changing.
A mind that refuses to quit recognizes that fear is not a signal to stop, but a compass pointing directly toward growth. Every great innovator, every visionary, every person who has reshaped the boundaries of possibility has felt fear. Edison felt fear in the solitude of his lab as failure piled upon failure. Lincoln felt fear as the nation teetered on the edge of collapse, knowing that the stakes could not be higher. Disney felt fear as creditors threatened, imagining worlds that did not yet exist. Fear is inevitable. Surrender is optional. The mind that refuses to quit looks fear squarely in the eye and continues forward with unwavering resolve. It knows that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision that something else is more important than fear itself. Imagination is the playground of persistence. The mind that refuses to quit never abandons its vision, no matter how far from reality it may appear. Carnegie imagined industries that did not yet exist. Ford imagined vehicles for every family when the world still relied on horses. Disney imagined kingdoms when only sketches and dreams filled his pages. And they understood a fundamental truth. Vision alone is not enough. It must be married to action, fortified by discipline, and protected by unwavering belief. The mind that refuses to quit cultivates this marriage daily. It feeds the imagination while structuring the path to its realization. The power of a single idea, when nurtured by persistence, is limitless. One thought, one plan, one moment of clarity can reshape your life. And yet, most people abandon ideas before they take root. The mind that refuses to quit waters the seed of its vision, even when the soil seems barren, even when storms threaten, even when the world cannot see what is emerging. It understands that the invisible work, the daily acts of discipline, the quiet refinement of strategy, are the true engines of transformation. The loud applause is not the signal of progress. It is the result of the work already completed in silence. Adaptability is the shield of the relentless mind. Edison modified designs, Lincoln altered strategies, Ford redesigned assembly lines, Disney adjusted storylines. The mind that refuses to quit does not cling rigidly to one method or one plan. It observes, learns, adapts, and continues. Flexibility in execution does not weaken purpose, it amplifies it. The mind that refuses to quit is both steadfast in its vision and fluid in its methods. Time, the relentless river that sweeps all unprepared souls away, is a loyal ally to the disciplined mind. Those who refuse to quit value every moment. They understand that wasted hours cannot be reclaimed, that hesitation breeds regret, that small, consistent actions accumulate into mountains of achievement. The mind that refuses to quit harnesses the power of focus, dedicating energy only to what drives its vision forward. It eliminates distractions, silences the doubters, and commands the flow of its life with precision. Action without reflection is blind. Reflection without action is futile. The mind that refuses to quit balances both. It studies every failure, celebrates every insight, and recalibrates its approach without losing momentum. Edison's hundreds of failed attempts were not wasted, they were data. Lincoln's repeated electoral defeats were not despair, they were instruction. Disney's bankruptcies were not endings, they were the blueprint for empire. The mind that refuses to quit transforms every experience into fuel for the next act. Persistence is contagious within the mind. Every act of discipline, every thought of resilience, every step taken in defiance of fear strengthens the neural pathways of determination. The mind becomes a fortress, impervious to doubt, impervious to distraction, impervious to external judgment. It does not require approval. It does not wait for recognition. It operates with one principle. The path to greatness is forged through unrelenting focus, unwavering belief, and action that refuses to stop. The mind that refuses to quit also understands the power of influence. Surround yourself with those who raise the standard, who challenge your limits, who amplify your vision. Remove those who drain energy, diminish belief, or feed hesitation. Edison worked alongside determined colleagues who shared his vision. Carnegie partnered with minds as hungry and disciplined as his own. Disney surrounded himself with artists and engineers who believed not only in his dream, but in the possibility of the impossible. Your mind will mirror the influences you allow. Guard it fiercely. Resilience is not born from comfort. It is forged in challenge, tempered in adversity, and refined in the fires of difficulty. The mind that refuses to quit does not see failure as permanent. It sees it as temporary, as instruction, as preparation for the inevitable breakthrough. Every setback is a rehearsal, every obstacle a teacher, every disappointment a mind that refuses to quit recognizes that fear is not a signal to stop, but a compass pointing directly toward growth. Every great innovator, every visionary, every person who has reshaped the boundaries of possibility has felt fear. Edison felt fear in the solitude.
There comes a moment in the life of every person when the noise of the world fades, when the endless chatter of doubt and fear dissipates, and you are left standing alone with your thoughts. It is in that silence that the mind reveals its power, the raw, untamed potential it carries when it refuses to surrender. History is filled with people who understood this. Edison, sitting in his lab surrounded by failures, refusing to let the world define him. Ford, told he would never succeed, crafting cars that would move millions. Carnegie, dreaming of empires when others saw only empty streets and shattered opportunities. Disney, facing bankruptcy and ridicule, imagining worlds that would ignite the imaginations of millions. These were not miracles. These were minds trained to refuse, to persist, to rise again and again when everything around them whispered that quitting was easier. Your mind is the most powerful force in existence, and yet, for most people, it is a battlefield they surrender. Your mind is the most powerful force in existence, and yet, for most people, it is a battlefield they surrender to every day. Thoughts of doubt, fear, hesitation, and limitation are invited in like unwelcomed guests, and too often, they are allowed to take residence. But what if you decided, here and now, that your mind would no longer take orders from weakness? What if every thought, every impulse, every ounce of energy within you were directed toward one singular purpose? Relentless advancement, no matter the obstacle, no matter the failure, no matter the voice that says you cannot. That is the difference between the ordinary and the extraordinary. That is the difference between the life most people accept and the life you are capable of creating. Success, real success, does not come to those who wait for permission, who follow the crowd, or who seek comfort. It comes to those who awaken the indomitable mind, who understand that every failure is not a wall, but a stepping stone. Every rejection, every delay, every setback is a test, not of your circumstance, but of your resolve. The world is indifferent. Fortune does not knock politely. It is claimed by those who refuse to leave the battlefield, even when the odds seem insurmountable. Napoleon Hill wrote a century ago that desire, faith, and persistence form the foundation of all achievement. Desire is not wishful thinking. It is a fire that consumes you until action is inevitable. Faith is not blind optimism. It is certainty in your ability to overcome.
And persistence is not stubbornness. It is the continuous march of a disciplined mind toward its goal, regardless of obstacles. Imagine the mind as a sculptor and your life as a block of marble. Every thought, every belief, every decision is a strike of the chisel. The weak mind hammers aimlessly, leaving jagged edges, unfinished, broken. The focused, unyielding mind hammers with purpose, seeing the statue within the stone long before it emerges. It is a vision beyond sight. It is conviction beyond circumstance. This is why clarity is essential. If you do not know what you want, how can the mind refuse to quit? If your goals are vague, your persistence will falter. If your vision is small, your actions will be timid. Greatness is conceived in the mind long before it is realized in the world. The human spirit, fueled by a mind that refuses to quit, thrives on challenges. Lincoln faced a nation divided, rejected, yet he persisted because his mind had conceived a vision of unity greater than his personal failure. Ford revolutionized transportation when the world doubted his ideas. Carnegie transformed an entire industry when the world underestimated him. Disney imagined kingdoms when the world laughed. These people were not invincible. They were relentless. Their secret was simple. The mind refuses to quit, not because the path is easy, but because the vision is irresistible. Their failures did not define them. Their persistence did. Your life will present challenges, some expected, many unforeseen. The mind that refuses to quit does not shrink before them. It studies them, adapts, and continues. It does not waste energy on regret or despair. It converts setbacks into lessons, pain into strategy, fear into fuel. When adversity strikes, most people falter because they have surrendered control of their mind to circumstances. But those who refuse to quit understand a fundamental truth. Nothing external has the power to define you unless you allow it. Your thoughts, your beliefs, your persistence, these are the forces that shape destiny. Every day you wake is a choice to give your mind permission to yield or to command it to persist. Every obstacle, every moment of doubt is an opportunity to exercise the muscle of your mind. The strongest minds are forged in adversity, not comfort. The most influential lives are built upon a foundation of challenge, mastered through relentless focus. Desire alone is not enough. Faith alone is not enough. Action, sustained and unrelenting, transforms thought into reality. The great figures of history did not wait for perfect conditions. They refused to quit in the imperfect ones, and so must you. Persistence is not a mere habit. It is the declaration of the mind that it will not be subdued. It is the silent agreement between your thoughts and your will, a covenant that whatever storm comes, whatever ridicule, whatever impossibility the world presents, you will continue moving forward. Consider Thomas Edison, who failed thousands of times before the incandescent light was born. Each failure could have crushed a lesser mind, but he refused. He saw the experiment not as defeat, but as data, as proof that he was refining the path to inevitable success. That is the power of a mind that refuses to quit. It transforms setbacks into stepping stones, mistakes into instruction, pain into progress. Visualize your purpose as a beacon in the darkest night. The fog of doubt may swirl, the winds of adversity may howl, but the light of clarity guides the mind that refuses to quit. Abraham Lincoln stood in the shadow of repeated political failure, yet his beacon, the unyielding vision of a united nation, illuminated every step. Henry Ford faced investors who mocked his ideas, laborers who resisted his methods, skeptics who scoffed at his ambition. Yet his mind refused to quit, and his vision became the Ford Motor Company, transforming the world of transportation. These are not stories of luck. They are stories of relentless mental discipline, of unshakable belief, of a refusal to surrender the mind to limitation. Belief is the engine of persistence. A mind that doubts itself cannot move mountains. Walt Disney faced bankruptcy, ridicule, and rejection, but he believed in the worlds he imagined. That belief was not wishful thinking. It was certainty forged from purpose. Every great achievement begins with belief, and belief demands action. The mind that refuses to quit does not sit idle waiting for miracles. It builds them. It plans. It executes. It adjusts. It continues. For even when progress is invisible, when the world appears to mock your efforts, the mind that refuses to quit sees the threads of success being woven beneath the surface. Clarity of vision is inseparable from belief. The mind can only refuse to quit when it knows exactly what it is refusing to quit for. Mediocrity creeps in when goals are hazy, when desires are vague, when ambition is diluted by the noise of distraction. The great ones, Carnegie, Edison, Ford, Disney, Lincoln, all operated with crystal clear purpose. They knew not only what they wanted, but why they wanted it, and that why became a force stronger than any obstacle. Without clarity, persistence is aimless. With clarity, even the most impossible challenge becomes a problem to be solved, a puzzle to be mastered. The fear will never fully vanish. Yet action creates momentum. Momentum feeds belief. Belief fuels further action. A cycle emerges, unstoppable and compounding, that propels the individual toward outcomes that once seemed impossible. Resilience is the armor of the unyielding mind. Every setback is an opportunity to learn. Every obstacle a chance to adapt. Edison's failures, Lincoln's defeats, Disney's bankruptcies, Ford's early losses. These were not final chapters. They were lessons etched into the blueprint of greatness. The mind that refuses to quit treats resistance as a teacher, not an enemy. It absorbs, it adapts, it overcomes. Adversity does not weaken it, it strengthens it. Gratitude may seem paradoxical, yet it is essential. A mind that refuses to quit recognizes every resource, every lesson, every connection as fuel for progress. Gratitude sharpens perception, magnifies opportunity, and reinforces persistence. It keeps the mind humble yet relentless, grounded yet visionary, aware yet unstoppable. Those who fail to cultivate gratitude often lose their way in the pursuit of success, mistaking scarcity for limitation, frustration for impossibility. Learning is the perpetual engine of the mind. A mind that refuses to quit never assumes it knows enough. It studies, it questions, it evolves. It recognizes that knowledge alone does not create achievement. It is the application of knowledge through persistent, disciplined action that transforms reality. A mind that refuses to quit recognizes that fear is not a signal to stop, but a compass pointing directly toward growth. Every great innovator, every visionary, every person who has reshaped the boundaries of possibility has felt fear. Edison felt fear in the solitude of his lab as failure piled upon failure. Lincoln felt fear as the nation teetered on the edge of collapse, knowing that the stakes could not be higher. Disney felt fear as creditors threatened, imagining worlds that did not yet exist. Fear is inevitable. Surrender is optional. The mind that refuses to quit looks fear squarely in the eye and continues forward with unwavering resolve. It knows that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision that something else is more important than fear itself. Imagination is the playground of persistence. The mind that refuses to quit never abandons its vision, no matter how far from reality it may appear. Carnegie imagined industries that did not yet exist. Ford imagined vehicles for every family when the world still relied on horses. Disney imagined kingdoms when only sketches and dreams fill his pages. And they understood a fundamental truth. Vision alone is not enough. It must be married to action, fortified by discipline, and protected by unwavering belief. The mind that refuses to quit cultivates this marriage daily. It feeds the imagination while structuring the path to its realization. The power of a single idea, when nurtured by persistence, is limitless. One thought, one plan, one moment of clarity can reshape your life. And yet, most people abandon ideas before they take root. The mind that refuses to quit waters the seed of its vision, even when the soil seems barren, even when storms threaten, even when the world cannot see what is emerging. It understands that the invisible work, the daily acts of discipline, the quiet refinement of strategy are the true engines of transformation. The loud applause is not the signal of progress. It is the result of the work already completed in silence. Adaptability is the shield of the relentless mind. Edison modified designs, Lincoln altered strategies, Ford redesigned assembly lines, Disney adjusted storylines. The mind that refuses to quit does not cling rigidly to one method or one plan. It observes, learns, adapts, and continues. Flexibility in execution does not weaken purpose, it amplifies it. The mind that refuses to quit is both steadfast in its vision and fluid in its methods. Time, the relentless river that sweeps all unprepared souls away, is a loyal ally to the disciplined mind. Those who refuse to quit value every moment. They understand that wasted hours cannot be reclaimed, that hesitation breeds regret, that small, consistent actions accumulate into mountains of achievement. The mind that refuses to quit harnesses the power of focus, dedicating energy only to what drives its vision forward. It eliminates distractions, silences the doubters, and commands the flow of its life with precision. Action without reflection is blind. Reflection without action is futile. The mind that refuses to quit balances both. It studies every failure, celebrates every insight, and recalibrates its approach without losing momentum. Edison's hundreds of failed attempts were not wasted. They were data. Lincoln's repeated electoral defeats were not despair. They were instruction. Disney's bankruptcies were not endings. They were the blueprint for empire. The mind that refuses to quit transforms every experience into fuel for the next act. Persistence is contagious within the mind. Every act of discipline, every thought of resilience, every step taken in defiance of fear strengthens the neural pathways of determination. The mind becomes a fortress, impervious to doubt, impervious to distraction, impervious to external judgment. It does not require approval. It does not wait for recognition. It operates with one principle. The path to greatness is forged through unrelenting focus, unwavering belief, and action that refuses to stop. Resilience is not born from comfort. It is forged in challenge, tempered in adversity, and refined in the fires of difficulty. The mind that refuses to quit does not see failure as permanent. It sees it as temporary, as instruction, as preparation for the inevitable breakthrough. Every setback is a rehearsal, every obstacle a teacher, every disappointment a spark lighting the flame of determination. The mind that refuses to quit is relentless because it knows that the path to extraordinary outcomes is littered with temporary defeats. Gratitude fuels the relentless mind. Recognize the opportunity in challenge, the lesson in error, the potential in struggle. Gratitude focuses the mind on abundance rather than scarcity, on solutions rather than complaints, on growth rather than stagnation. The mind that refuses to quit does not dwell on limitations. It cultivates the richness of possibility in every circumstance.